Good afternoon. Welcome to the show. I'm Melissa Ridgen, and today we are putting lady bosses in focus. Indigenous women entrepreneurs who started up businesses that are now soaring. We are celebrating them, and they are sharing with us, with you, how they did it and how you can too. I've got several to introduce you to, and an organization that is working to develop even more Indigenous women businesses and how they might be able to help you. So this show is for you at home who might wish that you worked for yourself but haven't yet taken that plunge. We're here to inspire and to inform today. So let's get started on the West Coast. Sisters Sage Wellness Products had to adjust to business in a pandemic like many other businesses. The only way to survive is online, including back at Christmas when stores would usually be bustling and busting at the doors. APTN Simon Charland took us to a virtual market that attracted shoppers from around the world. Watch this, and right after we'll be joined by Sisters Sage. Take a look.
All right, this order, 2 hemp seed and tea tree oil, 1 peachy keen, 3 lavender bath bomb, and 1 nitty gritty.
Business is booming at Sister Sage in New Westminster, BC, where founder Lynn Mary Angus handcrafts wellness and self-care products inspired by her Geek Katla, Nishka, and Métis heritage.
It was a pretty hectic, and we at some points had 4 of us in here working on shipping, packing, inventory, and just trying to get everybody's orders out in time for the holidays.
To replace lost business from trade shows and door sales, they have been relying on the online community and new initiatives. Shop Indigenous Women's Holiday Market is one of them. It's a Facebook-based operation that helps Indigenous women, as well as non-binary artists, who have seen their sales decline since COVID-19 hit in the spring. For founder Michelle Young-Crook, creating the market was a no-brainer.
It was a void that needed to be filled. Like, there's so many people out there saying how they want to make a difference and they want to do these things, and no one was really coming to the table with anything. And, you know, and now everybody's kind of wanting to do economic reconciliation, and this is the easiest way to do it. Like, put your money where your mouth is.
The private Facebook group was launched on November 7. The virtual market has quickly gone viral and already has nearly 40,000 members. Consumers looking for unique creations and artists sharing their skills and their stories. The Canadian-based marketplace has gone international, with vendors and buyers all around the world.
Like, I was on there and I saw a couple of Indigenous people from Australia and Chile, New Zealand, the US. Like, it's great. And the only thing I ask is that they're able to ship to Canada. That's the only requirement I have.
And when business is this good, there's no need to stop.
So there's always a reason to spend money, and, you know, it's not like anybody's going to stop making product or anything like that.
So artists will continue to share their craft long after the holiday season is over. Simon Charland, APTN National News, Vancouver.
Thanks, Simon. We love that story. Joining us now, Lynn Marie Angus. She is owner of Sisters Sage. Thank you. I'm loving those curls.
Oh, thanks.
Stunning, stunning. Well, first of all, I love that the products that I've had. Beverly Andrews, who's a co-producer on this show with me, she introduced me to them probably close to a year ago, I would think. And that smudge spray, seriously, it does give you that fresh smudged feel after. You know, you were in high-rise construction before starting this business during a pandemic. How does one go from building skyscrapers to making soaps and bath bombs? What's that process like for, you know, in your head to get from that to this?
Yeah, it was like a total 180, totally different from what I was doing before to what I'm doing now. Working in construction was really, it was not for me. I was really experiencing sexism and racism, being overlooked for promotions for other men. I was crying all the time, and it really felt like I was in crisis, and I just had to get out of the trade or the industry. And so I collaborated with Melissa, my sister, and we came up with Sister Sage. And the funny thing is that I had never made soap before, but a ton of research and YouTube videos, here we are.
So from the time, you know, you're getting to the point of fed up in your chosen career before, to the time of talking to your sister, we should get into business together, and then we should get into soaps. What's that sort of timeline on that?
Yeah, so but like we collaborated and we talked for quite a while trying to figure it out. I found a community entrepreneur program offered through the UBC Learning Exchange in downtown Vancouver. And so I signed up immediately, and they really helped me to, figure out what I wanted to do with Sister Sage. They taught me the basis of business and day-to-day life. And at the end of that program, I gave a pitch on Sister Sage and won $200. And so that was really the beginning of Sister Sage, and that was around September 2018.
Wait, and your sister Melissa, what's her background? Did anybody know how to make soap before this got going?
I know, so funny. So she had, she was in a bit of crisis as well. She found herself pregnant with her first child and facing homelessness. In Vancouver, there's a homelessness crisis, and she was part of it. And so this is why she wanted to, become her own boss and promote her own well-being. And so she was already interested in making bath bombs, and that's, it just kind of organically came together.
I think a lot of women thinking about going into business are scared to actually take that plunge, either thinking that you don't have enough money to get started, or what if your idea sucks and you're embarrassed and you fall flat on your face, or even just like a reluctance to leave that steady paycheck at a job that you might have to make that gamble on a startup. Can you share how you felt at the end of that diving board as you're looking off? You must have been thinking all of those same sort of things too. How did you convince yourself to take that plunge?
Yeah, it was really scary. I want to share like a quick story. When I was in construction, and this happened actually on Indigenous Peoples Day in 2019, I went to work, all proud with my beads and my braids. And one of the male coworkers had trapped me in a metal box, it's a lift, like an elevator lift that goes up and down the side of the building. So I got out of there, and I never turned back. However, I was left with post-traumatic stress disorder and major depressive disorder. And so it took a lot of therapy to be considered recovered from this. And when I was offered my job back, and I said, no way, no thanks. And so I made the decision that day to just jump into Sister Sage full time and have this be my main source of income. And then, the pandemic was declared a few days later. And so it was a really scary and hard decision to make.
But you got through. I think that's kind of the message to women out there. I mean, you can be sort of at the bottom, feeling like you're at the bottom. And here you are, you're not at the bottom now. Is that something that you share with people? And I appreciate and thank you for sharing that story with us, with our viewers. And I'm sickened that you had to go through that. But what's to be learned from it? Like, if you can do it, do you kind of look at everybody and go, it can be tough, but you can do it?
Yeah, definitely. Well, I want to share this story all the time because I want women and Indigenous women to know that they don't have to be stuck in their toxic work environments or even their toxic relationships, that there is a way out. It's a lot of hard work, but there's opportunity out there to become an entrepreneur. And so I do share, I have a growing platform on social media, and I share that platform with as many Indigenous women as I can. For instance, today I just launched for Mother's Day a matriarch box, and it's a collaboration with other Indigenous women creatives and aspiring entrepreneurs. Like, these earrings I have are made by Jamie Davis from Jada Creations. There's also, we're offering a meditation from Echo Alec from Sacred Matriarch, and another pair of beaded earrings by Audrey Medwaush from Wawate Beads. So I really, I seek to share my platform and promote other Indigenous women for their own success.
Well, and that's another thing. When you and I were talking, there's a difference between how many non-Indigenous people approach business, beating the competition, making the most money, those sort of goals, versus how Indigenous women approach business. What have you found now that you are part of that Indigenous Women Business Network? What's it like in there?
It's such a great, loving community, and I feel it's really important to share this. I think as Indigenous people, we always want to take care of each other first. Make sure we're taking care of each other, of ourselves, and then care for each other. And so for Sister Sage, I really try not to subscribe to that capitalistic, colonial idea on, it's all about money and hoarding money. So that's why, I want to hoard community, and I want to share this success with others.
I love that. Such a big part of Sister Sage is raising others up. You don't see Indigenous women entrepreneurs as something to step on or to get ahead of. You see them as sisters. What advice would you have to your sisters who are sitting at home right now thinking about getting into business? Like, would there be a checklist that you would want them to go through in their heads before they make that move?
Oh, I think there's a ton of tips, but I think Sister Sage success has really been based on the community that I found, and it's really important to seek out those other women who can be mentors or who can inspire you or help you or amplify you or give you tips, or you can call at midnight because you're freaking out about something.
Yeah.
Because that's what I found. I'm a part of this community called the Indigenous Lift Collective, and we meet up every Sunday and Wednesday, and we gather in circle and we share our celebrations and tips, tricks, and our failures as well, which are also celebrations.
Oh, absolutely. How many people do you guys employ now?
I have one full-time lady working here, one part-time, and myself.
And tell us about sort of the new products. What do you guys? You mentioned the matriarch box for Mother's Day, which I love. I just saw that moments before coming in here, actually. What else? What's kind of next for you guys? Where are you taking the business next? How are you growing? Are you branching into something that we can expect on the horizon?
Oh, that's a hard question. I feel like we just moved workshop into this beautiful house here in East Vancouver, and so we're kind of expanding that way. Next steps are, website development, more marketing, more advertising, and ideally hiring more women. The idea of this space here is I'm creating a safe environment and a safe workplace for Indigenous women and BIPOC women to come and work. And so for me to be able to give back to the community in just that one way is really important.
Well, Lynn, thank you for taking the time to join us today, and we wish, from the bottoms of our heart, nothing but goodwill, good success for Sister Sage. We love your product here, and hopefully everybody who hasn't heard of you can check you out. Thanks so much.
Thanks for having me.
Well, it's time for a quick break, but when we come back, how does one go from, this broadcast chair right here to cooking up organic eczema cream in their kitchen and then to selling that cream around the globe? We'll find out. Stay with us.
Join our conversation now. Like us on Facebook on our APTN News page. Follow or tweet us at APTN InFocus, and send your thoughts to infocus@aptn.ca.
So we are going now to a person who you would know, you longtime APTN News fans will recognize her. She was on the APTN News desk back in 2009, 2010. Patrice Mousseau. Well, she is now the CEO of a skincare company that started in a crock pot in her kitchen and now serves clients around the world. Check out this promo video for Satya Organic Skincare.
I'm Patrice. I'm the owner-creator of Satya Organic Eczema Relief. I actually created this because my own daughter, Esme, got eczema when she was just 8 months old. In fact, it was so bad that she'd be scratching in the night, and I'd go to pick her up out of her crib, and there'd be blood on her crib sheets. So of course I took her into the doctor, and the doctor's only option to me was steroid creams. And to me as a mother and as a journalist, that wasn't any option at all. So I started researching. I looked at the existing medical research, I looked at academic studies, I looked at traditional medicine, and I created something in my crock pot in my kitchen that cleared my daughter's eczema up in just 2 days. So then I had a whole crock pot left over and I didn't know what I was going to do with it. So I put it out to other moms out there who needed some of this. Turns out everybody did. And so Satya Organic as a business was born.
That makes me so proud when I watch that video. So Patrice, we actually started here at APTN the same day. Do you remember taking the videos in human resources about how to not harass people and all of the things that the corporate world makes you do?
Oh, my friend.
You know, and here, one of us is still sitting here, and the other is the CEO of a successful skincare company. You know, at that point, 10 years ago, did you ever think Patrice Mousseau's broadcast career was going to take her down the path of being a businesswoman?
Never, never. I mean, I got into doing broadcasting and reporting because I really wanted to try and make change in the world. After a point, you know, my priorities changed. I had a baby, and then I founded Satya, and I found out that business can actually be a way to do that. It can really be a vehicle for social change.
Well, and you didn't have, you know, this business background. We were talking about, you know, I think some people maybe sitting at home think, well, I could never get into business myself. I don't have a business degree. I've not taken any of those types of courses. You know, I don't have an MBA. You know, were those thoughts that went through your mind at the time?
Of course, because there's always a certain amount of who am I to do this? Am I good enough? Am I qualified? Right. And I mean, honestly, for me as a business owner, I'm actually very hesitant to hire someone who has an MBA because they just don't. Having an MBA is different than being an entrepreneur. And you have an MBA, you're very good at something specifically, usually in a large company. Being an entrepreneur is about problem solving and grit. And we have that in, especially like moms, we have that in abundance.
You know, this started in a crock pot in your kitchen. And I remember when you moved to Vancouver, and then it grew to you selling this product at farmers markets. And I was like, this is just beyond cool. Like, and then next thing you know, there's Dragon's Den. And then next thing you know, you're a CEO. You know, your product is sold all over the place. Like, I have trouble getting my head around, like, this is my friend who I watched this business grow from the ground. You know, what goes through your head as you sit now, looking back over that, how it went, and, you know, kind of what were the growth milestones that stand out for you, and how did you know where you were going to kind of go next from there? Sorry, that was like 500 questions in one.
No. I remember very specifically the day that I did my first farmer's market. It was awesome. I sold $110, and it was fantastic. It was like people were buying my stuff. Yeah. Now, as you mentioned, we're in about 900 stores across Canada, and we're actually, and this is probably I can make this announcement now. We're just launching in Kroger in the U.S., which is giant. They reach one of every 2 Americans. So it's going to be a big step up for us. Plus, we just also were in Indigo and HBC as well. So that just launched a couple weeks ago. So we're really growing a lot. You know, it's an evolution of the business. It's different from when I started at day one versus, you know, what I'm doing today. Your skill sets evolve. You just learn on the job, kind of. You don't have to have everything figured out at the get-go. And also to not beat yourself up for not having every skill. Like, I can barely add, honestly. Like, I'm so bad at, like, the spreadsheets and the, you know, cost analysis, all that kind of stuff. I'm good at other things. You don't have to be good at everything. You just go and do what you want to do and find people to help you.
Well, and how many people has this grown into? How many people do you have working with you now? You're obviously not fulfilling all of these orders out of a crock pot in your kitchen now. You know, like, what does Satya look like now in terms of, like, the bricks and mortar of it and the machinery behind it?
Yeah. Well, you know, I didn't, as you mentioned, I didn't have a business background. So when I grew my business, I could really create it the way that I wanted to. And what I wanted to do was actually employ people who are stay-at-home moms or caregivers of elderly parents or whatever. So we wanted to pay people at a living wage, which we do, and allow them to work on their own time. So we're very task-based, not hours-based. And, you know, honestly, people who cannot work in the usual 9 to 5 time frame usually are really good at getting stuff done very quickly because they have to. So that's been great. We've had all of those are the people that are employed inside Satya. And when the pandemic hit, of course, we were already all working from home, and we had built our community before it hit. So once COVID came, we were actually really well placed to move forward. And that was important because, of course, we ended up getting busier because everyone was washing their hands and wearing masks. So your skin was in deep trouble. So we've actually donated now to 3 hospitals and 2 extended care facilities 3 extended care facilities as well, just because the frontline workers are really using the product now a lot. In fact, I always tell the story of this nurse who emailed me, and her hands were so bad that she was actually crazy gluing them together so she wouldn't bleed on patients, basically. But since using Satya, her hands are back to normal, and her fingerprints have started to grow back, so she can use the biometrics again. So yeah, it's been pretty amazing to see how we're having that kind of impact with people.
You know, you had said you didn't come from a business degree. It's not your jam necessarily. You learn as you go along. Something else you had mentioned to me that I think is really worth noting is, you know, to women watching at home who think that they have an idea and they've got a lot of those conversations in their head that it's preventing them to take that plunge, to make that step, to make their dream a reality. You know, you'd said there's a lot of danger in keeping these things to yourself. Explain that.
Well, being an entrepreneur is incredibly lonely and isolating because quite often the people in your immediate family or life, unless they've actually run a business themselves, they don't quite understand what you're going through. So when you're interested in starting your own business, the most important thing you can do is find your community. And that would be other female entrepreneurs, I guess male entrepreneurs as well, but I'm really focused on female entrepreneurship right now, because they're the ones who are going to support you and share with you the experience that you're about to move through. And that's key. I wouldn't be here without my community.
Well, where do you even start? And you know, Lynn, who we talked to from Sister Sage before you, she kind of said the same thing. And I feel like, you know, you think of that and you want to reach out and you want to get that kind of network around you, but even that could be daunting. It's like, well, where do I begin with that? Right? What was your first step?
My first step was actually, it was interesting. I found a friend of mine needed someone to interview someone else for a podcast for her. And I ended up meeting this woman, Madeline, and we just ended up hitting it off. I interviewed her. She was like, you need to come to SVI Women, which was a social venture institute. And I saw all these women having businesses that were full of integrity and values, you know, just really sticking to what was true for them. But they were also very successful in what they were doing. And I thought, you know, if that's actually what business is, because my perception of business was always about profit and, you know, kind of sticking it to the little guy and like very male dominated. And it just was never something that I thought I could ever do. But then I went out and I saw all these other people doing things that I could get behind. And I thought, yeah, I can do that too. And that's how when I started my business. It wasn't when I created my Satya bomb. It was almost a year later when I got inspired by seeing all these other women doing good things in the world.
Well, we are inspired by you, and I hope some of the people at home are looking, going like, I was wondering what happened to Patrice, and now that I've seen her face, her beautiful face, and they know what you're up to, and I hope that there's some people who take inspiration from your journey and can make their own business dreams a reality too. And congratulations on, you know, the expansion to the States, to Kroger. This is incredible. Love you, and thanks for coming on.
Love you too, my friend. Thank you.
So my next guest is a wonderful Inuvik business owner. She's here to share her journey into entrepreneurship and how she's adapted and actually even thrived amid the pandemic. I spoke with Bernice Lavoie earlier this week. Here's that interview. Bernice, thanks for joining us all the way from Inuvik. You have 2 Just Raven fabric stores, and an online shopping component as well. How did you get into the fabric business?
Well, Back in, we've been in business for a number of years, but back in 2012, I consider myself a seamstress, not a traditional one in any case, but coming back to Inuvik, I realized that Inuvik lacks a much needed service to promote the artisans. So I decided, well, maybe I'll try something along the lines of a small cottage industry, sell out of my place and offer some beads and fabrics. And that's how I got started, I guess.
That's how it started. That was back in 2012. How did you grow your business into what it is now?
Well, after about 4 months working out of my home, I realized that's not what I wanted to do, and because it is a big commitment, and you have people coming in your house, or you're waiting for customers, and it's like, I don't know if I really like this. So I decided to go on Main Street so I can be more visible and more accessible. And so from there, it just kind of grew.
There's, and you have I'm curious, like how COVID has affected your business. Of course, different in the north than it has been for businesses in the south, certainly, but I'm assuming that there has been an impact as well.
I can honestly say it's probably been maybe positive in a way because we are more busier than usual. I think there's a lot of people that are not traveling as much anymore. So they have a lot of time on their hands and they want to do stuff, and I guess up here craft is a central thing to do. So it's been positive. I mean, when we had our first case, we closed down immediately. We followed protocol, and then realized, well, this is not going to be good. Fortunately, I have implemented the online store the year before, and so we decided, well, we'll offer curbside services because, I mean, we can still run a business without necessarily having contact. So with the online store, we just serve customers at the door.
I love some of the, just going through some of the photos at Just Raven on Facebook page. I love some of the, the northern fabric prints that you have there that you can't find that, anywhere else. So I would assume you also ship outside of the north as well.
I deal mainly with the Northwest Territories. I have customers mainly from the NWT. I do have a few in the South, and occasionally the odd one, I guess, I get internationally. So most of my customers are in the North.
What would be the best advice that you could give to a woman who's thinking about making the jump into starting her own business?
You definitely need to have the passion for it. If you're going to offer your own products, then you want quality over quantity. Yeah. Having the passion, being committed, and having customer service. Because without customer service, I mean, that's the success of your business.
You're not going to have repeats, that's for sure. Well, Bernice Lavoie, thank you so much for taking the time to join us and share some of your success with our audience. That's Just Raven Fabrics in Inuvik. You can find them on Facebook.
Thank you.
It was lovely to talk to her earlier this week. Bernice wanted us to make sure that we mentioned that a huge part of her store's success is her employees. They love the shop. They take very seriously that making sure customers are cared for. She employs 3 full-time and 1 part-time person at her shop in Inuvik. Well, be sure to find Just Raven Fabrics on Facebook if you didn't know that that's where they are. If you're interested in some of those beautiful fabrics that we saw through that interview. Okay, so as mentioned, starting a small business can be daunting, of course, but as we also heard, it can be a labor of love as well. Beverly Andrews brings us this story of a makeup line that embodies both.
An Indigenous-owned cosmetic company doesn't just want to help its customers look good, but to give back, too.
Our goal as a company was 10% of profits, so that 10% of profits will be going to the First Nation Family and Child Caring Society in February or March. However, again, in 2017, Cheekbone Beauty as a business has not made any profits. So how I've gone about doing that is the profits that if we were a company that was completely in the black at this time.
Jen Harper, the founder and CEO of Cheekbone Beauty, worked over the past several years to develop an Indigenous-owned premium makeup line made in Canada from high-quality ingredients.
The liquid lipsticks, which is sort of the line that I'm super proud about, are all named after strong, inspiring, empowering Indigenous women.
There is a shade named after child welfare advocate Cindy Blackstock, and a pretty red named for Autumn Peltier, a 13-year-old water protector who was recently nominated for the Children's International Peace Award. The line also includes lip gloss, brow gel, contour, and highlighting kits.
We're a cosmetics brand, so if you were to walk into Sephora, we're a high-quality premium makeup brand, just like one of the brands you would see on the shelf there.
It takes time to build a business. Most do not make money in the first few years. It's small steps along the way to build success.
Every single day, what are you doing today that's going to make you better for the next day, then the next day after that, then the next day after that, then the next week, month, year, and so on. So it's all the individual things that we're doing on a daily basis.
Cheekbone products are currently available online. Beverly Andrews, APTN National News, St. Catharines, Ontario.
Well, how things have changed for Cheekbone Beauty since that story aired originally on APTN National News. That was back 2 years ago. Of course, they're everywhere now. Business is booming. It's a powerhouse cosmetics company. They say that they have now donated over $100,000 to various charities, including the Navajo Water Project and One Tree Planted. If you want to learn more, you can, of course, visit cheekbonebeauty.com. Well, we need to take another break, but still ahead, a company Indigenous women start that helps Indigenous women start or grow their businesses. And some great insight from the Canadian Council for Aboriginal Business about Indigenous women entrepreneurs. Stay with us. Welcome back. A new program designed to help Indigenous women in business got off to a slow start earlier this year due to COVID. Well, I guess before this year, 2020. But it's now bursting at the seams due to its success. Here's Annette Francis with that story in Prince Edward County near Picton, Ontario.
So come on into the Shira Barberstock is getting just a small taste of exactly what Mickey Colton's Horse Sense business does.
If you walk down the middle, the horses can't reach you. If you want them to touch you, you can. You're going to stop before each stall and just get an impression of them.
Horse Sense isn't so much about learning about how to ride a horse. It's more about self-awareness.
Horse Sense is an equine wellness business. It's under the FEEL principles, which is facilitated equine experiential learning. So that is the certification and the training that I have. So I use my horses to help people interact and to get authentic and become authentic and find their emotions.
Colton began Horse Sense after her retirement from a 30-year career as a pilot in the Air Force. She soon found out that she needed some expertise in how to create a business plan and how to look after the finances. And then last spring, she joined a new training initiative called Kwe-Biz.
And so getting this has just given me incredible exposure and training on how to do those kind of things. It's been great.
Barberstock is the brains behind Kwe-Biz. The Eastern Ontario initiative helps Indigenous women in business like Colton.
It was actually Queen's University that started the program, so the We Can program. They received funding through the Women's Entrepreneurship Strategy, and we had an opportunity as a company, so our company is Aguajo Equal Source, to bid for the program, and we were successful, so we're leading it.
Over the past 3 months, Barberstock led Colton and 9 other Indigenous entrepreneurs in achieving their business goals through online business training and mentorship programs. She says in spite of having to switch to online training due to COVID-19, the program has been successful.
It's been challenging for Indigenous women entrepreneurs and for all entrepreneurs, in fact, but it's also shown a lot of resilience. Some of the women were sharing that with COVID, with a bit of a slowdown time, it's also given them time to be able to work on their business, so they're spending more time strategizing and working on it.
But for Colton, it's had the opposite effect.
COVID has actually driven people out into nature. It has, because people are so kind of trapped because of the disease, that I think it's driven them into nature. Because of my business is really done mostly in the outside. It's done in nature. It has been an advantage in a weird way for me.
Today, the tables have turned. Colton is teaching barber stock a few things face to face.
Riley, could you maybe come over here? Thanks.
Barber stock says it's been great.
They cannot walk away. They haven't got the option, but here he has the option he chooses to be with you.
Yeah. Thank you, Riley. Thank you.
You're welcome. Let me breathe in your ear.
That actually warmed me up a little bit. Thank you. Thank you for this experience.
According to Barberstock, BizQuay will be accepting a new round of applications from aspiring Indigenous entrepreneurs next April. Annette Francis, APTN National News, Prince Edward County.
It's really nice to be able to share this with people.
Joining us now is Shira Barberstock. Shira, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
We love watching that and your interaction there with that horse. I would like to have my own fuzzy horse at some point. What an incredible service that you offer. Share with us, you had to, before you were helping other women get into this business, you had to convince yourself actually to take that plunge into self-employment too. So you know that feeling. Can you share with us what it was that kind of propelled you off there, or maybe conversely, what held you back from doing it sooner?
Yeah, absolutely. It was actually in 2014 that my husband and I started to think about business. At that time, we were living in London. I was going to Western, and I was taking First Nation studies, and my partner was working in some local First Nations. And the idea of starting a business really came from the place of seeing all of the change that we wanted to see happen, and we got tired of talking about it and wanted to do something about it. So we actually started an online platform back in 2014, and that was just the beginning. Truthfully, we didn't even think of starting a business. We started a project, and then what happened is it ended up turning into a full-out consultancy, and then we had many different project requests, everything from facilitation to research projects. We've built an online platform for Indigenous climate change, and now we have this really exciting Kwe-Biz program that we have the opportunity to lead.
Well, and to go to the Kwe-Biz program, so tell us, we saw, the horse, I can't remember what she called it, therapy. I'm not going to do it justice. What are some of the other businesses that Kwe-Biz helped launch or expand? What areas are they in?
Yeah, absolutely. We had a good variety from 2020. We had a woodworker. We had a few people doing cultural-based teachings. We had consultancies. We had several artisans. And I can even tell you from this year, we have a new cohort of Indigenous women entrepreneurs, and we've got several people in counseling, the healing arts, artisans, media, and a variety of different products.
Is this, how many businesses in total last year and this year are you helping to launch? And we should say too, from the beginning stage of this, like this isn't, you guys start right from like the seed of an idea sort of thing. Maybe you should walk us through that too before you tell us how many you've helped and how many you're helping this year.
Yeah, absolutely. So we ran 3 major programs last year. We had the Business Accelerator, and we helped 10 women Indigenous entrepreneurs. We had about 15 people in the mentorship program, and then we also did a workshop series. The workshop series was based on needs, and last year everyone wanted to learn how to build websites, so we did a workshop series on that. This particular year, word has actually spread with Kwe-Biz, which is really exciting. So we've taken on 13 this year for the accelerator. We've currently got 15 people signed up with the mentorship program, and we're expecting to launch the workshop series later this summer.
What do we know about Indigenous women business owners that sets them apart from other random business owners? What have you seen?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a couple themes that I've been able to find in different research and even from the women that we've worked with. I've noticed that a lot of the Indigenous women entrepreneurs have some sort of social or environmental mission. So I call them big heart people. They're not just starting businesses for the sake of starting a business. It's not about making money and it's not about capitalism. It's about that social impact and what they're doing for their communities. And I think that's really, really beautiful. We know that a lot of Indigenous women entrepreneurs have smaller businesses. That's what the statistics tells us from, the census. research and stuff like that. And yeah, and I also noticed, like, from the women we work with, Indigenous women are incredibly resilient, very resourceful, and very innovative.
You know, we were talking about women who might be scared to kind of take that plunge right now. They might have some sort of an idea, but they don't know how to put it into something that you can really move on. You know, they're worried about maybe falling on their faces, not being able to support families. There's a whole bunch of fears. You have a couple tidbits of advice. I loved something you'd mentioned about passion and research, but can you expand upon that? You know, what are some of the other things you would say to those women who are watching at home right now going, I want to do it, but I don't know if I'm ready yet. What would you say to them?
Yeah, that's a really, really good question. You know, passion is a really important thing, and it doesn't matter if someone has education in business or an MBA. It doesn't matter if anybody that's ever started a business. Just do it. That's what I would say. Don't let anything ever stop you. If there's certain things that you don't know, that's part of the exciting learning curve of business. You can learn it. You know, when we were younger and we were children, there was a lot of things that we didn't know how to do, but, you know, through research and taking the time and having people teach us, we can learn absolutely anything. I think Indigenous women are superheroes, especially you look at COVID-19, a lot of the people that are still having busy careers and doing childcare. And I think actually now's a really good time, you know, with us having to be stuck in our homes with this whole COVID-19 situation. This is a really good time to be researching new businesses, looking at different business trends, and taking the time to do things like business plans and marketing plans.
So smart. Now, do you help people outside of Ontario, or are you only helping people who are looking to start up businesses in Ontario? If you don't help people in Ontario, what are you aware of anything else that's out there for people elsewhere?
Yeah, that's a good question. So specifically with the Kwe-Biz program, and a lot of that has to do with the funder, we're only helping people in Ontario, but we are looking to expand. I mean, there's been a lot of success with the Kwe-Biz program, so expansion of the program is definitely something that we'd love to consider. Our company, Aguajo Equal Source, has also developed a partnership with Startup Canada, and we're looking at how to build stronger business ecosystems, and so basically business support systems in First Nation communities across the country. And then in terms of, you know, if we can't help them right now through Kwe-Biz, always look at the different resources that you have in your region. You might have an Aboriginal financial institute. There might be a small business center, you know, definitely, and ask around. The other huge support is other people that are in business. So, for example, if you want to start a bakery, meet someone that owns a bakery and have a talk with them. You know, what is it like, the daily operations of running a bakery? I think people are sometimes shy to contact entrepreneurs, but what they might not realize is that we've all worked so hard and we're all so proud of what we've been able to do, that when an aspiring entrepreneur approaches us and says, please tell me your story and do you have advice, I think you'll find a lot of entrepreneurs love to give that advice.
Well, and we love that you took the time to share all of this with us today. Shira, you know, thank you for doing what you do, and I hope to see that Kwe-Biz will expand. I mean, you guys do great work. We are so thankful that you took time to share this with us, and good luck to you.
Thank you.
Okay, so for International Women's Day last month, I had the chance to talk to Tabitha Bull, who is a member of the Nipissing First Nation in Ontario, and she's the first female president of the Canadian Council for Aboriginal Business. She had a ton to say about how Indigenous women fare in business. Take a listen. First of all, happy International Women's Day to you, Tabitha. And before we get going of the effect of COVID on Indigenous businesses, let's kick things off for International Women's Day by talking about the bright lights. Give us some of the good news about Indigenous women in business this year.
Sure. Thanks for having me, and happy International Women's Day to you as well. We have seen a really exponential growth in Indigenous women entrepreneurs, both in the number of businesses that are being created, in the number of businesses that are exporting, in the number of businesses that are employing more people. So where we would have saw higher sole proprietors, we're now seeing more employing people. And also in the number of businesses who have revenue over $1 million. So really exciting news on the scale of growth.
You know, and the study, the statistics that you guys have at CCAB, breaking down barriers, it examines Indigenous women in business from 2011 to 2019. Notably, how much more women have culture in their businesses. It was 73% versus 55% of male Indigenous entrepreneurs. Women, as you just mentioned, Indigenous women are also less likely to have business loans and more Indigenous employees. You know, your thoughts on all of this? It seems like this is a lot to get excited about.
Yeah, I think, you know, the other thing is also from that same data set is that 83% of Indigenous women-owned businesses rank community and impact on community and their community relationship as their #1 priority. So I think, you know, as women leaders who look at the whole being, the whole of our community, the social impact of what we're doing, it's so exciting to see that these businesses are able to thrive and succeed. And also in the collaboration that happens between Indigenous women owners. You know, it's not a competition. It's about how can we support and lift one another, which has actually resulted in some really great success over the course of the last year.
You know, not part of the study because, as we said, that data set ended in 2019. But, you know, COVID, lots of stories out there about the effects, negative effects of COVID on the business community. How has it been for Indigenous businesses, and I guess, is it all bad news, or is there some success stories out there?
So definitely, we've done 2 studies actually specifically on impact of COVID on Indigenous businesses. We definitely do see that more than half have experienced a very negative impact to their business. But in our more recent data, we're seeing things trending a little bit better than they were back in May. And I don't know if that's, you know, as we move into a potential reopening, or also I think the ability of Indigenous businesses, just because of their resiliency, to create new opportunities and to take on new opportunities. One of those specifically is e-commerce. So we have seen a number of businesses, particularly Indigenous women-owned, that have been able to really take advantage of this new e-commerce platform and haven't actually been able to keep up with some of the demand for their product, which is so exciting.
That is a happy thing we can all cling to here, that any good news stories at this point, right? Well, Tabitha, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to share this with us.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Love Tabitha. So similar to what we heard with Kwe-Biz in Ontario, there is a national online business accelerator program for Indigenous women and non-binary people. It's called Fireweed Fellowship. I'm going to show you that story that Chris Stewart did earlier. You can watch that for some information on Fireweed Fellowship. But also remember what Shira had said, do your research. You want to find regionally what business programs are there to help startups. Ask business people, right? Like, ask them, what help did you get? What help is out there? Do your Googling, do your research. Because there is a lot that can help you launch that business. Anyways, here's Chris Stewart's story about Business Accelerator Program. Sorry, I can't remember what it's called, something fellowship. Fireweed Fellowship. My brain is fried by the end of this time today.
Indigenous-owned businesses are still underrepresented across Canada, and the Fireweed Fellowship wants to help change that. Larissa Crawford is taking a unique course that has just started up.
The Fireweed Fellowship is unique in that it's not only a national program, but it's led by Indigenous peoples. And it's created space for Indigenous peoples where we can honor our indigeneity, our culture, our languages, our ancestors, earth, and our relationships to all of that as we explore what doing business can look like for us.
The fellowship is running a 10-month online course for Indigenous women and non-binary entrepreneurs who want to grow their business. They say it's the first accelerator program for Indigenous women and non-binary people in the world. Jacqueline Jennings is the director of the Fireweed Fellowship.
So they're testing a prototype or they're in the market generating revenue. And we support them in growing and scaling their business with wraparound support such as professional coaching, mentorship, financial literacy, investment readiness.
With fundraising from the Raven Indigenous Partners, they are able to provide this training for free. 24 applicants were selected for the first year of the program, which began in early November, with a wide range of ages.
There's definitely an intergenerational variety. And so our youngest participant is 23, and we have a handful of participants in their mid-20s. And then I would say on the upper end, we're honored to have participants in their well into their 50s. So we have a really dynamic group.
Larissa Crawford is part of that group. She wants a better understanding of how to properly expand her business.
I want to understand what our finance people are doing. I want to understand how to set up our business so that it is investment ready. And that's very much what the fellowship is seeking to do. And I'm really looking forward to building that part of myself that I've just not been comfortable with.
The fellowship says they have plans to have a second year in 2021. Chris Stewart, APTN National News, Edmonton.
So if you're watching this thinking you want to support some Indigenous entrepreneurs, the Native Women's Association of Canada has a directory of businesses that you can support across the country, a whole wide field of things. Go check that out. These are owned by Indigenous women. You can find that at nwac.ca. Canada Council for Aboriginal Business has a directory too. Go check that out at CCAB.com. We're all out of time for our Lady Boss edition. I'm Melissa Ridgen. You take care. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you back here next week.